Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum podcast. This is Citizen Strife, and it's time again for another rundown of the anime of the season, and maybe a couple of announcements for the upcoming season. Specifically one, I might as well announce the show I'm looking forward to, at least, is another Black Butler arc. So there's going to be so many other shows coming in spring, but as far as sequels and things, Black Butler is the one that stood out to me, considering they just did the public school arc, and now they're going to do, I want to say it was the Emerald Witch was what it was called, but I know for sure myself and Lee and I have been watching that, catching up on that. So we're definitely going to be watching that too. I don't even know if she knows it's there yet, but I'll tell her if she hasn't heard this yet. But hey, more Black Butler. I'm fine with that. And anyway, obviously so many other shows that'll happen in spring. But for now, let's keep on going with the winter stuff. As is the case for these every couple weeks, I'm watching dubbed, so I might be behind on episodes, depending on if they're at the same week or not. I will have spoilers for them if I get to them. And considering we're near the end of seasons, I kind of know where these are going to go, but there might be some surprises. But really, the speculation and kind of how I feel the shows are going to go. And these shows I could talk about again in more, singular reviews someday. But this format allows me to get through a lot of different shows all at once anyway. So this is good for me in a way, because I can still watch other shows on the line and do other shows the way I have been doing them monthly. But the 4 shows that I have, actually not 4, 5 or 6 shows that I have, we'll go with them and just keep on going with them. We'll start with Apothecary Diaries Season 2. This one was interesting because I like that they're introducing more things in kind of these 2 episode, we introduce a discovery, then we pay it off in the episode afterwards. This set of episodes, because we talked about the Emperor, finally being introduced as his own person, as his own character, rather than just the monolithic, he's the Emperor, he's important. They gave him some backdrop. This episode was about the Empress Dowager. And they're starting to feed into things about a previous emperor, this guy who was a pedophile and just this idiot and a simp, just completely unfit for the role, afraid of women, completely a doormat for the Empress and just needing to bear children. And the Dowager was the unfortunate soul who ended up becoming the one who raised the current emperor. And it was kind of these episodes were not very comfortable. They didn't show anything graphic, no, but if you don't like that sort of thing, underage people, the same thing with say way back when Elfin Lied, when they alluded to this sort of thing, in a way, whenever they do that sort of underage girl relationship thing, it's not fun. It might be a couple episodes you may like, may not like, but the Dowager herself is a sympathetic figure in a demanding sense, in a presence about her and her story and how Mao Mao takes care of it. They keep alluding to Jinshi as well, and now, you kind of figured out who Jinshi actually is, how that's going to end up playing itself out, because Apothecary, again, they keep building and building and building the Mao Mao Jinshi thing, and they're building Mao Mao as somebody who is out of the sphere of influence, but is important, and is solving all of these mysteries and all of these cases and doing all these things for people. And her sphere of influence, despite being someone of low station, is catching on. And whether that helps her or hurts her or gets in other people's ways or whatever, you start seeing all of these things start to coalesce, and now you have Jinshi and Mao Mao. Of course, they're probably going to get together someday. That's how this whole entire show has been building. It makes sense. But slowly peeling away at layers of the political intrigue, but doing it with their sweet time and doing these like mini stories that build to things. It's great. So these 2 episodes were yet another exploration of that, building to, there's some other characters that have some intrigue to them, as opposed to just, we're talking about concubines. Now we're talking about these people with a little bit more importance to their station. How does Mao Mao deal with that? Which is good. And obviously Apothecary continues to just dominate. It's great. I am so glad I found this. Speaking of shows that are good, My Happy Marriage Season 2 has picked up really, really well. They're near the end of their 2nd season. And Mio has finally got some freaking conviction. It took Kyoka getting kidnapped by Naoshi to do it, but she's awakened to her powers of dream sight. She's able to kind of like be like this stealth person's like, go here, do this thing, be on this area, do this thing, and she's able to just kind of find her way through things, and she has conviction in her voice and the mirroring of her mother, and she has the reasons they as a couple exist. You start seeing all of the things that I was talking about. I don't like this kind of character, but I liked seeing the end result of this and seeing where Mio was at the beginning of season 1 to where she is now. It's a revelation. It's a great thing. I get the distinct sense that it's just gonna end, boom, in like an episode or 2 in some climactic dream sight battle, illusion battle, whatever the fuck. It's fine, I don't know if they did enough with the gifted communion stuff, with the superpowered stuff, but that's not what the show's about. The show's about Mio and Kyoka being together, and they do enough with that, and everything else is kind of a side thing, but they do enough to give you a well-rounded approach to their characters, and, this whole Shikigami being, Kudo as a child was a nice touch. And just the way that Mio acts as a person to where she was, that's the key to the show. That's what makes it work. And I think because I was watching this with Lee, it made it something that I appreciated more. Because, again, I do have issues with this type of character, and this kind of slower building drama show. If I was to watch it on my own, I appreciate it more that this has been kind of the show, along with Apothecary and Black Butler and whatnot, that we watch together, and I'm able to appreciate it more that way. So this might be something that if you haven't been watching it, I would highly suggest it, because it does pay off later on, and it's great. Speaking of paying off, Toilet Bound Hanako-kun Season 2 has this narrative with Shijima in the art room, and they're going with this narrative of this fake world. Just accept that you're in this fake world and we can be friends. But the mechanisms are you have to get rid of people. So there's this, like, it's a fake world, but everything's great and it's all cool and all. You just live in this world and accept it and have your memories and be trapped in whatever the fuck. As opposed to the real world where people are dead and they're, apparitions and wonders and whatnot and just, whatever, But everything is kosher for everybody except Nene and Ko. So what was interesting about this world is that there are several other people from the other world who know that it's a fake world and the mechanisms behind it. So they know they exist too. And it's their own trap. So it's neat that, this world exists, but not everybody's trapped in it. It's just who's doing what, who's pulling what strings, and how do you get across this? It's one of those emotional illusion traps that is great at getting character stuff over, because this show has focused more on relationships and stuff rather than just, here's an occult thing, let's do the occult thing. No, they're building to something with Nene and Hanako and Ko as individuals in this world, in this space, and they're tugging it kind of like, we've been with these characters for a couple of seasons, and now we want this to matter. So how do they go about it? Because it's fun, but it's also dramatic. You're allowed these kinds of moments in a show like this if you build it properly. Do the goofy stuff early, build the heaviness later when you have these characters established, whether or not you yourself as a viewer care about them or not. If you build a character properly, when you do something like this, it actually matters when it pays off. So they still got maybe an episode or another to do the Shijima and the art room stuff, and I think they're going to succeed at it because the season is probably 4 episodes left. You know, they've gone a little bit slower than other shows, but they have something in mind, and I'm really interested in it. And speaking of interest, there's like 1 episode left of Zenshu. I really want this to hit the landing. They got 1 episode left. This thing has just been great. You know, this has been my favorite non-sequel, you know, of the season, and it has not misstepped 1 iota. It has not failed at anything. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying that what they've tried to do, they've worked at. The idea that Natsuko was this annoying bitch, and then she learned to not be an annoying bitch, but then she did become an annoying bitch, but then they got over it. Now they're trying to feed into her insecurities near the end, and they're trying to build all the building relationships, building the scenario of, okay, can you defy fate? Are you able to save somebody who now you care for, now that you like? But now they're feeding into the idea with these last couple episodes that all of Natsuko's creations, having fucked with the story of her tale of perishing, have now come back as new voids that have done a lot more damage. So now the entire city is after her, or there are cultists who are trying to protect her, and it's like both sides are fucking with everything, and then the voids are killing everything. So everything has gone to shit, and Natsuko is in trouble. How do you feed off all of that? And now Luke is just screwed. He lost the woman that he fell in love with, at least he thinks he did, and is going nuts. So how does Natsuko fix it? I just wish I didn't have to, I wish I could have watched this episode on Sunday, but whatever. I'm recording this on a Saturday, but I want to know how this ends, because does Natsuko come back to her real life? Does she just stay in this world and it just exists as it is and she's changed it? I don't know where they're going. But the climax is there. They've built to it properly. It's felt like a 12-episode show that doesn't need to be 24, but they can build to more stuff with Natsuko if they want, but they've been smart enough to make a 12-episode show feel like a 12-episode show properly. And if you haven't gotten on board with Zenshu yet, I don't know if... I've said it every time, this is great. I mean, I'm feeling like this is an 8 show that's going to turn into a 9, if they stick the landing. There's every chance they could fuck it up and do something dumb, but I have enough faith in them that they won't. So, I'm on board with this. Let's see. Sakamoto Days. What is... Oh, yeah. A couple of goofy episodes after the lab stuff. A couple of shorter stints. One was about a bathhouse where they just did some funny stuff with a guy who was a hitman in a bathhouse, using the bathhouse against Sakamoto. And, trying to do all sorts of weird stuff. Cold stuff, fire stuff, steam, all cool stuff. And I think that's where Sakamoto Days works, is they take a lot of everyday mundanity and they make it ridiculous so that it can be a lethal attack or some shit. Or this is how he protects himself by using a pen, or this is how he uses a marble to throw a marble at somebody's head and it blocks a gun or something. Everyday dumb shit you find in your spots. And this was a bathhouse. they're going to a bathhouse, so they use a sauna as a thing. Stuff like that. That is where Sakamoto Days finds its inspiration, and it works as here's your guy of the week. How does he deal with Sakamoto? How does Sakamoto just no-sell it because he's perfect? Shit like that. The other part of the episode was about somebody who knows Zhao Tong from the Triad, but he's weird about it, and he's a perv, and he takes him to a casino. They did a cliffhanger, so I can't say much else about that, except he's a guy that likes her, sort of, wants her back, sort of, shit like that. They developed it, so it's fine. Sakamoto Days is what it is. It's goofy shit, meant to be funny. There's not much else about that. Ameku MD, these 2 episodes went really dark. Much like the Apothecary Diaries, where this one was about a very touchy subject, and I'm going to say it now just so that you are aware. If you haven't been watching Ameku, the episode's about an angel, or the room where the descends an angel. There's a 2-parter, and this is about a kid with terminal cancer. So bear that in mind if you watch this show and get to that and are like, no, not doing it. And yeah, so it's a 2-parter episode about Takao dealing with this kid who she helped, but then it came back. He's dealt with chemotherapy once, but it came back and it became terminal. And it got me at the end because I'm somebody who fears death and my own impending thing, or if my parents, shit like that, I get emotional. You might have seen a couple of episodes of me in some games like a Dragon or, Final Fantasy VI, where I've actually broken down in situations like this. So seeing that, got to me near the end, seeing Takako's reaction to Kenta and how she had to deal with that, and how Kotaro was like, dude, just go see this kid. It'll make his day. It'll make the parents' day. So she does. And then there was a little mystery side thing with the other kids in the children's ward, which was a little side thing. It ended up being in a later story, but it is about reactions to some kid passing away. And it's just, it's rough. So I warn you that if that's not the sort of thing you're into, you can skip it. This show is pretty damn good, and it is a good exploration of that sort of thing, but it's rough, man. Kind of like the Apothecary Diaries, just be forewarned that it's not fun. It's not meant to be fun. So, But as stated, this show is also good too. I say that I kind of like it as much as Sakamoto Days, and Zenshu's still kind of on the top there. I'm still working my way through the season. Some of the shows are going to end sooner than others, so I'll be kind of splintering in, the spring stuff with the end of the winter stuff as I go. But that'll do for this week's rundown. Let me see. Inspector, yes. So I've already recorded it, but it's Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. So that's next week. So I've already recorded that one. Inspector is the next episode for anime stuff. Final Fantasy IX, I could do that review in my sleep at this point. April 26th. Then we do a couple of episodes from Mega May. We're still doing that despite having the anime rundowns. So Mega Man 3 and Mega Man X4 this year. And I've decided that in June, I'll be talking about the first 4 seasons of the Castlevania show. So I watched Nocturne, but after I watched Nocturne back, I went back and I watched seasons 1 through 4 again. So I want to talk about those, because Castlevania is great, and I love talking about it, so we'll talk about Castlevania. But that'll do for today's episode, and I'll see you next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.